Hello everyone, this is Steph. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to give a little warning that we will be discussing suicide today. If you need to, feel free to skip this one, but otherwise, I hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Steph Sanzaro Podcast. My name, of course, is Steph, and I am so grateful to have you here joining me this week as we welcome another fantastic guest on the show. Now, this podcast is a space for open and honest conversation, a space for my guests and I to lean into vulnerability and to talk about the things that are really important to us and the things we would like to raise awareness for. Today, I am joined by the magical Kay Gibbons-Buckwell. She is a creator, photographer, singer-songwriter, and healer, many things. And I am so thankful to have her here joining us today because she is going to talk to us about creativity and energy and what that can mean in our lives. So Kay, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very grateful that you have this podcast because so many people need something like this in their lives. And I'm grateful for you.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are you able to fill in the dots from my intro? Tell me a little bit more about who you are, your story.
Well, I've always been creative in any way. So I started dance, calisthenics when I was really young, very musical family, musical background. And then I got into poetry in a huge way.
Wow.
In school because I had this fantastic teacher, wanted to be a poet, no worries about that. But that sort of transcended later into becoming a songwriter. And I wrote my first song when I was, 10 or something, and I was teaching myself how to play piano. And I did jazz ballet and then, my sister, when I was about 15, said to me, "You're either got to be an actress or a singer. I'll pay for lessons. What would you prefer?"
Really?
And I said, probably singing. So then because I used to sing a lot, put on the old tapes and the record player and
Amazing.
and just played.
And you are fantastic.
Thank you. So then I did get singing lessons. I learnt opera when I was 16 for 2 years.
What?
Then I learnt for 3 years from Dennis Walter.
Ah, yes, a Geelong legend.
Geelong legend, so 5 years up. But all of that, in the meantime, I'm also painting through all of this.
Wow.
And
Very creative child.
Picked up Mum's camera, and I used to take random photos of, the dog and my artwork and weird things.
Yeah.
And Mum would get the film developed and go, "Kay,
What have you been doing?"
And then I studied photography at school, at high school, so year 11 and year 12 and darkroom and everything else.
I love that.
Really loved it, but I wanted to be a painter. And my photography, the art teacher said, "No, the rest of the class is doing photography. You have to do photography." And so I did it. But it turned out that it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Because later on, and then I did do numerous more courses on photography.
So it's a great foundation.
So music and photography. And then music took me everywhere, all around, half of Australia, from Darwin to Sydney, Newcastle, back to Melbourne, all through Melbourne, professional singer-songwriter for, since the age I was 17. I'm now 58, so you can do the maths. All right.
41? No, 31?
Well, I did it for probably about 30 years and then sort of semi-retired. And then I studied writing and did that full-time for 12 months. So, I have a few credentials. I've also studied interior design and business and,
My gosh. Yes, you've lived an amazing life.
I have lived an amazing life, and one day I'm going to look back and go, wow. Mind you, depends on what success you call success, right? Mm-hmm. So I call success having a go at everything and living the life that you're born to live and want to live. Others call success, marriage and babies or money or status, right? And I'm not famous. I don't have babies. I don't have any children at all. I have stepchildren that I love.
You also have us.
And I have you guys. And I have a wonderful hubby. But I don't have a lot of money. You know, I'm not a millionaire or anything like that. But my mother said to me, and I remembered this quote this morning. She said to me when I was younger, you've never cared about money or brands or having to be, you know, like wear the right thing or whatever. And I said, no, I never have. It's always been about the heart first and everything else is secondary.
Amazing.
It
Gosh.
is.
If only we all had mothers that were telling us that, or fathers or parents or teachers in schools.
I know, that's exactly right. And we don't. And so I'm very aware that I'm blessed in that part. But there are other challenges growing up that weren't there. So I should come back to another part of me that's absolutely huge, which led me to become a healer, an intuitive healer. And that is when I was, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4, I started seeing shadows in the kitchen, and I'd be sneaking into Mum's bedroom at night, you know, and I'd be running through the kitchen, and Mum and Dad would just say to me, it's just shadows, Kay, it's just shadows, blah, 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 blah. And then one night the shadows just overwhelmed me. They came so close. It was like they were looming up out of the cupboards and just like totally as if I just stepped into a black cloud, right?
Wow.
And I screamed, blue murder, screamed so loud that Dad was there in like a minute thinking I was being murdered.
Oh, my.
And from that day on, I had to sleep with a nightlight on, right? Many, many years later, of course, I discovered that I wasn't the only kid that went through that, and that those that often had that experience went on to become healers.
Wow.
I know. And my sister, she was given some Shirley MacLaine books. I was probably about 20. And Dad's sister also used to send down a whole heap of like spiritual books, you know, and they were channeled books, and Dad would say, you know, you should be reading these sorts of books, you know, this would be good for you and da-da-da. Even though he sort of didn't really take in the information himself, he knew that there was something important there for us or for me. And he used to tell us a few things that happened to him growing up that were like one day he felt his chest was really heavy and he was sleeping, and then the window he thought was open, and then it was like he heard his voice being called, you know, in the middle of the night and blah, 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 and it was his mother's voice who'd passed away. And then my mum thought it was in there as well, and thought that there was like a breeze coming through the window, and then they both woke up and the window was closed, and it, you know, so it had been a little visitation.
Yeah.
So my dad was very open in telling that story to us, even as a youngster, right? So spirituality was really quite prevalent growing up, but particularly around 1920 in my life. And so, and Lynn, my sister, got right into, you know, Shirley MacLaine and blah, 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 and all these books. So cool. Everything started coming to me. And then I realised that I had a huge interest in this, and this was a big wake up. And once that all happened, it took a long time to see the correlation between creativity and spirituality.
Okay.
And the common denominator in all of that was the energy of love.
Oh.
And the other thing I was thinking about driving out here was how I remember, you know, having an argument with the universe one day and just going, come on, what does it all mean? What's the point of living? And, you know, and I was pretty miserable about life, and things were hard. And then I realised, you know, they're hard because, you know, the last relationship went belly up, or you weren't being understood, or, you know, it was always about relationships, you know, that make us a bit wary about life. It's never, I mean, it can be our careers, but it's more than likely that we're having a bad relationship.
Yeah.
With anybody. It could be with our parents, could be with our, you know, lover or whoever.
Yeah, co-workers.
Family, co-workers, anybody. It's relationship, right?
Yeah.
And one day I remember saying, come on, show me love. What does love mean? You know, I want to know about love, everything about love. And I had that sort of question, I think, when I was probably in my mid-20s and when I was at my lowest point. But boy, oh boy, has the universe stepped up and shown me everything about love.
Wow.
And that the whole thing, so all of the creativity and all of our gifts and all of the intuition and all of the desire to help people and see this world to be a better place has all been because of the motivation to know love, to understand love, or to make more love.
Wow.
That's such a cool thing.
Beautiful? Yeah.
But you don't know it. You don't know it when you're growing up. There's no rule books here. There's no school to tell you about what true love is or altruistic love.
No.
It's all ego driven. It's all like, he doesn't like my hair. He doesn't like the way I look. He doesn't like my teeth. He doesn't like this. It's so ego driven.
Yeah.
And very 3D, three-dimensional, you know.
So you're going to take us on a bit of a journey outside of the 3D today so that we can get a little bit more of a picture of what love is?
Well, yes, I can do that, absolutely. Because everything I do now is motivated by the heart and not the ego. And that's where it all has to start. But before I do that, I do have to give you the footing or the foundation of the springboard, what made me jump.
I would love that.
Right?
Yeah.
And in the midst of everything, so my parents were going through a divorce or breakup, or I was trying to discover who I was, which looking back now, I can see that I was an awkward kid, not very cool.
Okay.
Extremely bullied at school. Like I was the kid where you'd sit there and the note would pass around to everyone in the school class and say, don't sit next to her, or she's use bad words against me, whatever. And I just didn't understand it. But I can see now that it's quite possible. I've got a few learning disabilities, right?
Okay.
And I was very blunt and direct as a child, and I had many people tell me that. And I think now that was not the best way to make friends, right? Because you're very blunt and direct and you're like, what are you doing that for? Like, I don't understand, And so I started going to the library and getting all these books on how to have conversations.
Oh, yeah.
How to be social etiquette. Like I really wanted to improve myself.
Yeah.
But I was struggling, and I was struggling big time, and there were relationships that broke up, and many, many relationships that broke up, but a couple of major ones, right? And then a couple of times I had people say to me, if ever we become famous as musicians, you're not to do the talking because you don't know how to talk.
Oh.
Or you need to lose weight, even though I was like a size 12. Like,
oh, my.
Or you need to do this, you need to do that, et cetera, et cetera.
Ugh.
And then, so I developed a huge complex. I was a really happy 18-year-old, 19, not so bad, 20, 21 when I decided to get into songwriting in a real way and moved to Melbourne to be a pretend rock star, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And the pressures of that and the pressure to be, like a model in a magazine or to be more articulate or all of those sorts of things became enormous and weighed too heavily on me until one day I found myself sitting on the kitchen floor, pulling my hair out, literally rocking backwards and forwards in an absolute mess, ripping chunks of my hair out, right?
Wow.
And I went, this is no good. And at the time, so the relationship I had at the time, who was also in my band, we split up and I was so lost completely. I was writing songs about it, which sort of helped. And when I look back now, the lyrics were really intelligent lyrics, but I didn't really understand them. I was writing them, but not really, feeling them in my heart,
Yeah.
So then I went down and saw Mum and Dad, bawling my eyes out. At this point, I'm like throwing up a lot, and I was not bulimic or anything like that. I was eating, but I was just so anxious and throwing up and everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've got to see someone. I've got to do something. This is crazy. I know that I'm so intelligent, but I'm not coping with life at all.
Oh, no, you can't live like that.
No, it's terrible, but it's something so many of us go through, and often hidden, unspoken. Like a lot of people just thought I was being successful, living my dream. I'm in Melbourne, country girl, going to the big city.
Yeah, it looks good from the outside.
It does. And I was working 2 jobs. Like I was working at a nightclub in the night and just to pay the rent, and then working in a toy store through the day, and then rehearsing and writing songs and trying to do gigs on the weekend, right?
Yeah.
So I burnt myself out.
Yeah.
Anyway, one day I found myself I'd borrowed my dad's caravan to live in for about 3 months, myself and my cat Hendrix.
Hendrix. Amazing.
Who were called Aretha in the beginning until I realised it was Hendrix. Anyway. Anyway, I started tossing up, should I just end it all? Like, really, what is the point? This is too hard. I don't know my way out. That very day that I was thinking about that, I received a letter, and it was from my grandmother, and it was this card. It was full of sunshine and flowers and everything, and she said, "Hi, Kay doll, I'm just thinking of you. I heard you've been a bit unwell. Love you to pieces. You're in my heart." And I'm going to cry a little bit now, but that's all right. I still think about how that turned my life around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, and please excuse my tears, but I'm a very teary girl, and I love that too, that sharing emotion. And
I love it, please.
It saved me. And that was the very first time I heard this little voice in the back of my head that said, "This was not your time." I didn't know who was saying that to me. I didn't know why, anything. I knew the voice was not my voice, and I knew it was somebody else's voice, and it was a male voice, and they were just saying, "This is not your time, darling. This is not your time." So 2 things happened right at that point, and I went, okay, it really isn't my time. And so I picked my socks up and I moved in. I asked Mum actually, could I go and see somebody, like a psychologist? So I went to a psychotherapist who I argued with because she kept telling me all these different things. I'm like, "You don't know my story." And I of course she knew this, but I insisted on arguing, everything about it. And eventually she said, "Right, we're going to teach you meditation." And she had just been to Switzerland and learnt this meditation technique, which was like a self-hypnosis or hypnosis.
Wow.
Yeah, and she took me through it for the first time. And she was blown away. She said, "Your whole voice, Kay, changed into a child's," as she took me back into my life.
Whoa.
And we went and we worked through events that had happened and were able to clear it all out. That technique, I then went on to teach other people.
Oh, my gosh.
And that started me becoming interested in meditation. The next part of the story is singing. So the band and everything that I was with that caused all this heartache, I decided I needed to expand my horizons. So I left and I went up to Queensland and met some other musicians. And while I was there, this woman had a pack of tarot cards. And I said, sorry for sniffing. And she's like, I said, "What are these? Teach me." And she turned out to be a great friend who I later shared a house with in Newcastle.
Oh, my gosh.
She taught me tarot, right, and introduced me to tarot. So now I have the tools of meditation and tarot, all the while singing, all the while still, painting and using all these other creative things that's all I knew was creativity. But the spirituality started to pick up momentum.
Yeah.
While I was in Newcastle for, 6 months or something, I couldn't find a job, like nothing except for being a fairy storyteller one day a week, which was perfect for me, but I couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I used the time to teach myself to meditate. And at times I just started meditating for like 8 hours I'd stop and have breaks and go to the toilet and everything, you know. I wasn't really like, you know, the monk that would literally sit still for 8 hours and do it, you know. But in that time, a whole brand new world opened up to me. And that was the introduction of what the possibility of other dimensions, of what energy could mean, what universal energy, what it even meant to be New Age, and all the books that Dad had left lying around the kitchen table started to sink in.
Wow.
And it just all started to click. And that's when I knew why I'd come to this world. And one day I wrote in my journal, I was a big journal writer then, and one day I wrote, I'm here to make the world smile. I didn't know what that meant or how, but I just knew that that was part of my mission.
Wow.
And yeah, and it just all evolved from there.
Yeah. Thank you for telling me. Thank you.
It's a big story, isn't it?
Well, yeah. But I think it's important for us to know that. Now you've got this sort of like, even just, I think it's such a blessing that you were gifted with these extra senses of, you know, what are we calling it? The supernatural, even a little bit, the spiritual, the heavenly, the universal,
the sixth sense.
Yeah. Because you just knew that it wasn't your time.
I knew that it wasn't my time and there was a deeper reason for things.
Yeah.
But I still hadn't put it all together by then. So then I went to Newcastle on my 30th birthday. Pretty much I was there. And so my 20s were really about discovery and hurt and pain and still being creative, relationships creating and then falling away and not understanding it. Like just the amount of pain that I could feel in the world was too much. And now I realise that there's so many of us out there who are empaths. We're empathic. We pick up the sensitivities of other people. We feel the world on a deeper level. We feel it on a most molecular level, but also mind, body, you know, spirit level. And I realised there was a whole lot of us out there that were hurting because the world can be a very hurtful, unkind place if that's what you choose to dwell on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then where was the love? So that was why the big question came in.
Sure.
What's the point? Where's the love if I'm hurting so much right now? You know? If I'm choosing to, like suicide, what's going to turn me around, you know? But life, I think, is like a jigsaw puzzle. And these were all little pieces that were just falling into place, but the big picture still wasn't there yet.
Okay. So when did that start to, you know, come in?
Well, I think that as more and more took place, and I did meet somebody when I decided to study writing, the teacher, my editing teacher, I ended up marrying.
Yeah.
So for 9 years we were together, but he was a lot older than me, and I sort of saw him as a bit of a Svengali. Like I was impressed in the beginning at his intellect. He had a lot of intellect, and he was exploratory with the world. Like he wanted to know things about the world, and that interested me, you know, because I wanted to know about the world and how everything fitted together. And he had all these philosophy books and in a different viewpoint. He'd studied philosophy and religions at uni. So that gave me another great grounding. He was also creative, but all of the knowledge that he had, I soaked up like a sponge.
Right.
So a few more pieces started to fall together, and then we opened up a shop in Torquay called Tree of Little Miracles, and we had a whole lot of books there, and I started teaching meditation. And because we needed another income stream, I started doing tarot readings for people publicly.
Wow.
And I remember the first few times I was quite nervous about it. First few times people would come in and I'd say, maybe you need a job like as a nurse or something. And she goes, how do you know I'm studying to be a nurse? And I didn't. That was a thing. And I just had to find my way through it. But I was obviously getting information from somewhere.
Yes.
Because I'm not telepathic. So where did the information come from, right? So energy information travels on energy highways, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I was tapping into. The interesting thing is after that 10 years of being with him, and then we divorced, and which was a very good thing in the end, because it was time to move on from each other.
Yeah.
We had different paths to, and the karma was finished, right?
Yeah.
The lessons had been learnt between the two of us and moved on. But after that 10 years, I realised that I'd been teaching and all of these sorts of things, and I probably knew about the size of a peanut when it came to the mysteries of the universe, because it seems like to me the more knowledge we have, the more we realise we absolutely are just swimming around like tiny ants in this amazing universe, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Can totally relate to that. The more I feel like I'm learning and the more I take on, I'm just like, I'm sorry, I don't know anything. I'm not an expert in nothing.
Yep.
I'm just existing here and trying to take it all in this world.
Yeah. But it's like, but in your 30s, which you'll find out.
Not there yet.
No, but you will find out. In your 30s, you think you start to get it together. You're like, well, this is way better than the pain I felt in my 20s. And now I know something, and now I'm going to pass it on to others. And this is really important. And all of that is accurate, and it really is true, and it is important. And then you get to your 40s and you think, all right, I need to lay down some more foundations for myself and for others. And there's like, I think that life is like circular, and then we keep coming back across the same path. Only every time we cross the same path or the same set of circumstances, we learn about it in a deeper way.
Okay.
And so the more, it's like a spiral, and the more you keep crossing that line and keep crossing the same situation, the deeper the understanding.
Yeah, so it's not like when you learn something once, you're never going to have to go through it again.
No.
It's we repeat and then we learn the lesson over and over.
Yep. And sometimes they even say that we repeat a lesson until we finally learn it. But I feel like we actually, it's not like we're repeating it, because every time it's a different set of circumstances, but it's like we just are evolving more. We're just in a place of evolution. So then the 50s, which is all about freedom in numerological terms.
Really?
Yes, 5 is the number of freedom and
amazing
movement and public eye. And so you sit more in yourself. And
that sounds peaceful.
And it all comes together. And then the rest of your life, you can just do what you come here to do, right? So my mission, some people they do get their missions early in life, you know, but I think mine came late, or all the pieces of the big picture came to me late. And I know that sounds kind of a bit weird, being that I was so in tune and meditating and so many messages and reading for others, and it's just that then I thought it was about making people smile. But now it's like the knowledge is so deep and wondrous and so full of love that you don't walk so much in fear anymore.
Wow.
Hardly any fear at all anymore. You know, we still have our ups and downs, like, we get nervous about something. That wouldn't be human if we did. I'm not the Dalai Lama, right?
Yeah.
But you don't walk in the same amount of fear, because you understand that the motivation for everything in life is if you can move with the energy of love. So your motivation is to either bring love to the world, bring love to yourself, bring love to your relationships. That's not to say that I still, have my moments. Of course, as I said, they're human-y bits that...
Yeah. You're still living a human experience.
We still are, and it doesn't matter how multi-dimensional or we are or become, or the awareness of multi-dimensions, or we still have to get through the very syrupy, muddy, earthy patterns that are here. It's dense.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that realness. It's like, I think, was it Rumi? Or maybe it was Thich Nhat Hanh, but basically talks about the monks who go and they spend all their time just meditating and existing in a cave. But then the real lesson is for them to then come back to reality and have relationships, because the real lesson is to be able to live through your relationships with love.
Exactly. I mean, you get the lesson. So apparently, if we're talking freely here, you know, I'm a big advocate and a believer in past lives,
Yep.
right? And reincarnation and things like that.
I love this.
It's not even so much believe. Here's the thing, right? So somebody could be listening to this. I'm sort of digressing slightly, but it's important to know here.
Mm-hmm.
Someone could be listening to this and going, this is a lot of, you know, kooky, spooky crap. And absolutely for them, if they are a soul who is young and has only ever experienced life on earth, which some souls have and haven't experienced otherworldly, other dimensional lifetimes, that's all they understand. So everyone has a different level of evolution, right, of where they are on the spiritual genre.
Yeah.
Right? So we can have the spiritual genres that some people talk about as star seeds, which is other planets or interdimensional or angelic or of the devic realm, which doesn't mean devil, it means of the natural realm, you know, like we might know them as fairies or whatever. So there's all these different realms that energy lives in, right?
Where are you from?
Well, I'm a little bit from column A, B, C, and D.
Ha.
And I'm only halfway up the ladder, you know.
Wow.
I'm not even what you would call an enlightened being. I'm evolved and I'm awake.
Yeah.
But I'm not anywhere near the enlightenment that some people who walk this earth are. And you'll be one of them.
Oh.
You're most enlightened, but we have to come to it ourselves and we have to remember it, right?
Yeah. And I'm a baby.
That's it. So every lifetime that somebody chooses to live, it was explained to me by my beautiful guardians of light, my council of protectors and lovers and trainers and teachers who are other dimensional. It was explained to me that as we are pass through the birth canal, that we lose our memories, right, from past lives.
Yes, I've heard this.
Yeah. And that we have to then remember who we are each time we live again.
And that means learning each lesson again.
Yeah. Until it becomes freer and we learn it much more quickly the next time around, until we don't have to go through that lesson again.
Is this similar to playing out our karma that is meant for us?
So karma is an interesting thing. Karma really just means it's how we evolve and learn our lessons. Are we learning lessons? Sort of. Like, for example, and the best way to explain this is to give you an analogy and make it concretize it a little bit. But if you met somebody and you weren't very nice to them, you know, does it mean somebody's not going to be nice to you? No, that's cause and effect. That's a different thing, right? But if you weren't nice to them, maybe in a past life they weren't nice to you, and, you know, and you get stuck in a relationship that is abusive, right? And you go, right, why am I in this abusive relationship? And then you find out that it's happened before, or maybe not with that person, but someone else. And the whole thing is that you have to learn to get back to loving yourself. So we have barriers.
Powerful.
It is powerful because we have these barriers that are put up, and all they're really there for are to remind us to get back to the self, overcome the barrier. So if somebody is not being kind to you or you're not being kind to them, what is it, the fear in you? But if it's vice versa and someone's not being kind to you, what is that telling you? And then you're like, all right, do I love myself enough to walk away and honor myself, that I deserve better, that I am worth more, that I need to put myself in a better situation? And yes, there is unconditional love, and you can love that person and you forgive them, but there's also unconditional love for the self. And that's when we have to walk away and go, I am worth more than the abuse that you are giving me.
Yeah, that's really tough.
So that's karma, in that we learn how to overcome these little parts of ourselves that about value and worth and love. Because all the universe wants, in whatever religion you follow, even if you don't follow a religion and it's, you know, psychology you believe in, it does not matter. it all comes back to self-worth and the nut of who you are and how much love you give yourself or another gives you or you give another. Right?
It actually makes so much sense because I know pretty much everyone that I know is on that journey to self-worth and self-love or self-like, self-care. I actually don't know one person that's not currently on that journey.
No, because that is the human condition. And so it's been explained to me from my beautiful guardians that we do come to Earth because it is the densest place in which we can learn. So we learn, it's the lessons are most difficult, but we really learn them here because we have to overcome the negative energies that swirl around the world and the ego and everything else that we're blessed with.
Yes.
Yeah. But they're all a gift. And when you start seeing all of those things as a gift, and they really are, from the bottom of my heart, there's such a gift when we are given those challenges because it's an opportunity for us to rise above something and to better ourselves and to move beyond. So going back to the suicide part, we're all given these exit points, several exit points through life that we can, if life gets too tough, we jump fence, right? But we have to come back and do it again. So you may as well push through and try to find your purpose and your way through now because you'll just have the lesson to relive in some other way later on in another life.
Yeah.
If you believe in that.
Yes.
But this is the way I live my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I've had a lot of healings with you before, and it gives me a greater understanding of sort of, why I'm here, why I'm going through a certain thing that may feel really small and in the moment. But when I come to you, you're able to give me a broader spectrum of what it is and a greater understanding of like the main concept of it.
Yeah.
You're always like, come back to this.
Yeah.
Just come back to this feeling. Come back to this. Come back to yourself.
Yeah. It's all about recentering. Just centering the self into this place of respect. I was doing a healing this morning actually on somebody and I said, it's the old cliche, the body is the temple, your mind is a temple, right? But if you walked in, and we often do this, when we go traveling, we walk into a temple or some sacred site and we're there with so much reverence and wow, and we want to light a candle or we want to light an incense stick or we want to give some fruit or something, right, of some kind of offering that thank you so much to this greater world.
Very true.
Now just come back to your body is your temple, right? So don't you want to light a candle for you or light an incense stick for you or offer it beautiful food, and because it is an energy just like anything else, and it's reverent. We need to find that reverence in ourselves.
How do we begin to do that?
And that is the hard part.
Yeah.
That really is. And so the first thing we do always is look outside of ourselves to another relationship. Oh, they think I'm beautiful, therefore I am loved. They do nice things for me, therefore I am loved, right? But we have to change the mindset. And I think we have to change the mindset of the next generation. And that's how it'll change over time.
Yeah.
Is that if it comes back to, I want to honor myself, I am important too.
Totally.
And that was the skill I was missing when I wanted to jump ship and, off with my head, like that's suicide here, because it's overwhelming and you think, where is the love coming from? Where is the love? And so receiving my grandmother's letter that day was like, well, there's some love, but then I had to learn to put it back in myself.
Yeah.
One of the ways that you can do it is by understanding, there's a simple question, and I ask everybody this, if money was no object, what would you do? If you didn't have to earn a living, maybe you want to, but if you didn't have to, what would you do?
Yep.
Right?
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, if you want to.
I think I would spend all my time just singing and painting and just like cooking and eating and being in love and just like running around my house like a little bit of like a fairy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's it. So that's what you do feel like doing in your 20s and your 30s. Then there comes a time, and believe me, I've spent some periods of my life where I have done that, cooking and cleaning, singing and painting and running around the house like a fairy in back gardens with fairy lights and everything else, right?
Amazing.
And then at some point you realize you come out of yourself.
Right.
And you go, I want to help others.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? And because you've filled yourself up. Finally, you've honored yourself, and you're so full now that you want to turn around and give it to somebody else.
Wow.
And that is where the salvation of other souls starts to happen. Because when they're starting out their journey and they need saving and they need to know that they are loved, that is the job of the healer, is to wake up the healing within somebody else and know that they are capable of loving themselves. So you show them love, you give them support, you give them the space to be able to heal themselves, to be able to wake up their energy within. And one cell starts to talk to the other cell and starts to talk to the other until there's this big conversation going that's shimmering through the body and going, I want to live and I want to share who I am with the world. What have I got that can help somebody else?
Yeah.
So then it becomes full circle.
Yeah. And then they begin to do the same thing.
Yeah. So the other thing that's come to be of note in my life is the understanding of creativity.
Okay.
We create for ourselves and we create for expression. But there comes a point where you're creating for the world and you're creating for the upliftment of the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And this is where the synergy and the synchronicity starts, and this shimmering, I can't do it, I have to do the little twinkly finger things. It's spirit fingers, the shimmering of all things, because everything is interconnected. So as we are expressing ourselves and we're raising our vibrations because we finally know that we are worthy of expressing ourselves to the fullest, then that's uplifting me. And then it uplifts somebody who starts to look at my artwork. They're going, wow, I see something in this. It's making me so happy. This artwork makes me smile. So then it's awoken in you. And then you put it on your wall and you go, every day that makes me smile. Then you walk out the door because you're smiling because you saw something you loved that day, and you buy a coffee on your way to work and you're smiling so much that you make them smile. And then they go, wow, that customer made me smile. That's making me feel good today. And so it passed on, right?
Ugh.
And where did it start? From creativity.
That's beautiful.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And that's how we save the world. I know, idealistic, but it's true.
Well, I don't know if it's idealistic, but yeah, I think what you're saying about creativity is there are a lot of people that are stuck with a limitation or a door in front of their creativity. They haven't been able to access it yet or harness it yet.
No.
And
that is because the self-worth hasn't started shining through them yet.
Is that because there's like this fear of anything that I produce will never be good enough?
Correct. Yep. Everything because when we're young, we learnt that everything's being judged, including us. We're told off for not picking up our jumpers off the floor. We're told off for being this, that, and the other thing, right? We're not good enough. Well, it's clear. The whole of society, the whole time we're growing up, our parents telling us off for one thing or another, even though they're just trying to keep us safe. For one way or another, we're being told off. So by the time we get into our teens and our young 20s, we actually have no idea what our own self-expression is, right?
Yeah, that was my experience for sure.
And it's so disheartening and it's so terrible, and it stops people in their tracks and they think that we have to be perfect before we can express ourselves.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Absolutely. And so that slams the door shut. But what if we could just start expressing ourselves in secret first, right?
Right.
Behind the closed doors. It might be a journal. It might be just one thing that we write one day. It might be that we put on some makeup and some lipstick in our secret and twirl in front of the mirror and pretend that we're singing to, I don't know, ABBA or something, right? And it starts there. And then one day it might be a picture. One day it might be that we take a photo and the sun is shining in it, you know. And we start to get enjoyment from that in secret.
Yeah.
Without judgment. And we start to love that. And then we start to build on the way that we can love ourselves then, you know?
Yes.
And slowly over time, the confidence comes when somebody peeks their head through that door and you allow them in and they go, oh, that's so cool. And you go, really? And then you start to want to show it to the world. But I think the biggest thing is if you bring it back to love, which is the absence of fear.
Right. Wow.
Right.
Yep.
There's only two emotions, love and fear. Everything else, anger, sadness and everything always comes back to fear.
Wow. Yep.
And when you embrace that, you go and you start facing your shadow side and you start going, all right, well, how can I accept this fear or how can I accept failure? And is it going to be okay if I fail? Will I be sent to prison if I fail? You know? When we start moving through that and we put the presence of love back in our hearts, and as we are creating, we're loving something and then we stop feeling the fear, that's when, you know, that's a real miracle. And that's the thing, that's the chain of events that starts to change the world because the vibration lifts then. It lifts in you and then it lifts in somebody else you share it with and then in turn it lifts with somebody else. Until you find that you're, you know, helping the whole world and you're healing the whole world and all you did that day was do something for yourself that made you smile.
Wow. I've never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think my problem is that I still feel as though if I do one thing, it's not going to be enough to create enough of a difference or it's not going to be enough to help someone.
That's right. And that's our egos jumping in and going, I am fearful that I am not enough for somebody. I'm not enough for this world. I'm not even enough for one person. I'm not even enough for myself. And that is the biggest disease that is crawling across this planet in this day and age.
Yeah.
Is that lack of self-love, you know, and the density and the negative energy that's in this world, you know. So we have to try and change it and we have to do what we can to change it. And so that's my job is I'm an uplifter.
Yeah, you are.
I'm here to uplift and not just through my healing but through now my photography.
Yes.
And well, once upon a time it was through my music but now it's through my photography.
Yeah. And that, I think it just shows you're in this season of your life where photography has come back in and so many people are feeling touched by your artworks and your pieces, and it's actually like people are now seeing it from across the world, and you know, you're being put in exhibitions and magazines and YouTube videos, and yeah.
I know.
It's
How
amazing.
weird is that? But it's brilliant. And do you know, I'll admit something here. None of it is my work, right?
Okay.
It comes from me, but it's not my work. It's the symbiotic conversation that I have with the universe and my beautiful guides who say, I want you to walk down to the beach today. I want you to go for a walk. There's going to be something there that we want you to share with the world. And I'll go down and I'll have my camera and I don't know what I'm going to look for. And all of a sudden, on a grey, rainy day, the sun will come out and split the sea or split the clouds in something absolutely so magical and so much like a miracle. And I'll go, that's why you brought me here.
Wow.
I'll take the photograph and then I'll make it public. People say, sure, I need to have the skills to in order to capture what I'm being told to capture.
Yeah.
But we're in a joint moment of creation, and I'm just sharing what they asked me to share. Can I tell you something funny?
Yes.
So my beautiful guides, they said to me, we need you to send your beautiful photographs out into the world, and we need it to get to a lot of people, and we need, that helps to raise the vibrations of the world, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, yep, how do you want me to do that? And they said, well, if you just take a photo and put it on Facebook, that's going to reach maybe 500 people. Or you might get, join a club and that might reach 20,000 people. But we want you to go further. And I'm like, well, how? What do I do? I've got no idea. And they went, right, well, we're going to market it like this. We're going to make you do souvenirs so that when people see the souvenirs, they're going to send it all around the world, and it will be this happy photo that will lift the spirits and will start being entrenched in and around the world. And I said, you guys are awesome marketers. And they're like, we know.
Oh my gosh, they're at work.
They're at work.
Yeah.
So, it's not my brainwave to make souvenirs.
Yeah.
It's theirs.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. When it comes to creativity, we're overthinking everything, right?
Yeah.
But if we go into partnership with a higher plane, higher spirit, multi-dimensional, if we think about this on a wider level than just, our little ant cells, then all of a sudden we can start this major conversation that changes the world.
So tell me, what can someone do if they're really feeling really blocked to the universe, to the higher, the word of what's being spoken? What are they going to do? What if they're sitting here going, yeah, but I'm not getting told to go down to the beach today and take a photo? Like, are they actually, or can they pick up on signs around themselves? Like, what can they do?
That's a brilliant question and exactly right. And I must say here, I've been doing this since I was, 18 and I'm 58, right? So, of course, my skill set of being able to pick up on signs and everything else is huge compared to someone who's just starting out. So I totally get that. But what you can do is just start to do one thing for yourself today. You know what's in your heart. And like people say, I don't know what's in my heart, but you do. You know whether you like pink or you like purple, right?
Yeah.
You know whether you like nachos or whether you're a vegan or whether you're a carnivore, right? You know these things.
Yes.
You start with one thing that's going to fill your heart today. Just one little thing that's going to give you a tiny little bit of love in your life, right? You're just going to go, I'm doing one thing nice for myself today, right? So you start there. And that one nice thing, I liken it to a pearl necklace, okay? So
your analogies are always my favorite.
So the pearl necklace, so the tiny pearl is the one thing that you do. Then the next tiny pearl is another tiny little thing that you do the next day and the next day. I love sunrises. I'm going to go down and take sunrises with my phone. I might be crap at it, but I'm going to start to do it, right? All of a sudden, after a month, you've got 30 pearls. And after a while, you've got a whole necklace that you can start to wear. All right. And then you can make a bracelet, and then you can make whatever else you want. And then you start to fill your life up with these tiny pockets of beautiful gratitude, moments of gratitude. So I think gratefulness is everything. But if you, somebody who's stuck creatively and don't know what to do, you need to get outside of your head, right?
Yeah.
So how do we do that? So everyone these days, pretty much everyone has got a smartphone. No one has to be a brilliant photographer or anything else, but you do have to go out and start to notice some small details around you that are outside of your head. It might be the way that the light comes through your curtains in the morning. It might be that there is a beautiful ladybug sitting on a leaf. Take the photo of it.
Yep.
Right? Take the photo of what is making you smile that day. And then you look at that, and in your saddest moments you go, but that was a really beautiful moment, right?
Yeah.
And the more beautiful moments, and I'm going to get to something else, a beautiful little technique that I've been using for many years now, which works beautifully.
Yeah.
But the more little moments you start to put together that make you smile, then you can, when you're having those bad days and your sad days, that's when you go back to the beautiful picture on the wall, the pretty picture that you took, the pretty, dress that you bought, the whatever it is, right? You go back to those moments, and that actually changes the neuropaths in your brainwave, so that you start to make new tram tracks.
Yep.
You get out of the old rut and you move into new ways of thinking, and you go, okay, look to the light. look to the light. Because light, and we call it universal light, but it's really look to the love. Where is my love today, right? Because love and light is an identical thing, right?
Yeah.
So when you are really in a bad space and you don't know what to do and you can't work your way out and you are in a world of pain, I want you to sit on your bed or lay down on your couch, whatever, just in a moment of peace. Put some nice music on if you have to. And I want you to imagine that there is a hot air balloon in front of you. And I want you to imagine that all the things that you can't figure out, whether it's how to pay the rent that day, your relationship, how you look, whatever it is that is paining you in that day, I want you to throw into that hot air balloon. Just everything, right?
I'm doing it now.
Beautiful. I can see that you are absolutely concentrating on filling that balloon up. And you might even imagine that there's ropes holding that balloon down while everybody climbs in and out. You know, you can put people in there, you can put situations, you can put questions that you don't have answers to. You put everything in, just toss it all in there. And then I want you to cut the ropes that are holding that balloon down. And I want you to just lift it up to the universe and just let it go. And you say, I don't know how to solve this. I don't know how to fix it at all. I don't have the skill set. But universe, I know you do. And I'm going to hand it over to you now. Like, all of my problems, I'm just going to hand it over. And then I always say an accompanying little prayer with that, and I say, please make me brave and give me courage to be able to move forward into where I'm supposed to be in life. Help me walk in love. Send off all the things I can't figure out in love. Transform them and bring them back to me on the wings or the wind of love and with the answers.
The smile on my face right now is huge. That's such an uplifting practice.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And you know the other real quick thing is you stand in the shower and you just let the shower just pour over you and imagine that the shower is a rainbow and that you're like a sieve. So it's actually pouring through you, not just over you, but through you. And you watch all the mud go down the drain out of your feet. The mud is all the stuff that gets stuck to us in the day. And that's a beautiful, quick way to cleanse your aura really quickly.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
Oh my gosh, the practical stuff. I love that too.
Yeah.
Stuff that you can just hear. Like, oh, I just know so many people are going to listen to this and go, I'm so glad that I found this episode today.
Well, you know, and like you put up on your Instagram this morning that you cleared your room, right? And I remind everybody to do that all the time. And people say, I don't know how to clear a room. But negative energy does get stuck in rooms, right? That's a fact. And so what you can do is you can either use like Palo Santo or incense, sandalwood or something like that. You can even use like there's lavender that you can buy that's soluble just from the supermarket and put it in a spray bottle with some water and just spray a room with lavender. You can play loud music. You can open the curtains. You can turn on all the lights. You can shout. So music, sound, you don't have to just use, sandalwood to clear a room. There's a million ways that you can clear the energy out of a room, but clear it and clear it often. Clear it daily if you can or weekly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's such a beautiful tip and it just makes me feel lighter. It makes me feel, like I can breathe deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after healing, I always clear the room for the next person, but I always say clear this of any negative energy, right? But then the very next thing I say is, and please fill this up, my room up, or my space with the highest light and love that we can and make us feel safe in here and comfortable.
Yeah.
So you got to fill the room back up with love.
Yes, you've got to carry the intention of why you're clearing and then carry the intention of how you want this cleared room to be and feel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just on that subject, intention, that is a brilliant word. And a lot of people throw it around, but it is the word of the day, and along with gratitude is what turns lives around, right? Setting intentions. So we can set intentions the moment we wake up and go, we can be fear-filled or we can be love-filled. And we say, everything I do today, I'm going to attempt to do and fill with love and remain centered. And even when I get scared, I'm going to try and shift the scary bits of the day with love. So it is about setting intention.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I feel like warm and light and just, that's a really special conversation. I think that comes with your wisdom and your experience and your knowledge. Like you were mentioning earlier, like you're in your 50s now, and I feel like you really are in this state of like knowing yourself, loving yourself, knowing that you respect yourself, and how you can now change the world to start creating that ripple of love and light. Yeah. And I can actually feel that. And I honestly, do you know what it gives me?
What?
Hope.
Yes.
It gives me hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I still feel the lost and unsure and the unworthiness, you know, and it actually just gives me hope that I will get there myself.
And that's the thing. And that's what I say to people. Honestly, from the place where I was, if I can get there, you can get there. And people say to me, yeah, but you're this and that and evolved and whatever. And I said, yeah, true. I was determined to make the most of my life after the hideousness of the bad moments that I was in. That's true. There was something that spurred me on. But that doesn't mean that you can't either. Just change it little bit by bit. You know, it's all it is. It's just hope, but having faith in something that's bigger than all of us. Because it is. That's what energy is. Energy moves across all time, space, and
everything.
Everything. Everything. You, me, we're all one. We're all in this soup together. And that's why we need to hold out each other's hands to help each other up.
Yeah. Thank you. I really feel like you've helped to do that today.
Good. I'm glad.
Do you feel like there is something that you haven't expressed or got across today that you really want to bring to the listener?
I think the last podcast you were talking about Cody. And Cody was having a chat about his journey. Yeah. And one of the things you mentioned to me that you wanted to let the viewers know that he also uses healings as part of his journey.
Yeah, I think that was a really important part of his journey that we just forgot to mention.
Yeah, and it's and I don't very rarely do healings these days. Like you have to be on a spiritual journey to come to me for a healing. I just don't allow everybody into my house.
It's exclusive.
It is exclusive, but it's there for a reason. It's because you need to be serious when you come to me that you're on this journey of self-worth, you know. You need to be doing the work. And right from the get-go, that was in Cody's mind, that even though he was going through the most challenging, difficult time, he knew that there was something he had to do. The same thing when I went to my psychotherapist, and she said to me all those years ago, and I was 24 or 25, and she said, tell me what's your good thing about yourself. And I said, I can't think of one thing. Oh, except I'm intelligent because I'm here, right? And I think that's the one thing. If you know, if that intelligence is sitting there, it's just smouldering, but there's enough love in that intelligence to make you want to go and help yourself, go and see somebody, go and get some help. I think that's the most brilliant thing. Whatever that help looks like to you, whether it's talking to a mate, going out and taking photographs, whatever it is, go and ask. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I was for many, many years, but I'm so grateful that a lot of my lessons came through my dreams. I know, I was just, now that I think back, I went, well, they had my back right from the get-go.
Wow.
Yeah, but they have got everybody's back, right? But we just got to learn to be open to the signs. Yeah. And that it's there.
And I know Cody is really grateful for having your healings. Like he said so many, many times that he probably wouldn't have made it through if he didn't have you, you know, helping carry him along and teaching him the things he needed, or just, you know, carrying through the universal wisdom that the guides were telling you. And and I even am so grateful to you because, you know, when I had chronic fatigue, I was coming to you and I had sort of like energy holes everywhere. Everything was leaking out of me, and you were just helping me sort of pour that all back in and rejig my chakras and just everything. And I'm so thankful to you for helping me get through that time.
Thank you. I'm always grateful for every person who comes to see me because it gives me a chance to work with these beautiful souls that are just so trusting and just allow me a peek into their lives and trust me with their innocence and their vulnerability, and that I can hold space for them. And what a privilege it is to be able to share that. Like, that's amazing, you know, because I'm blessed, beyond blessed, to be able to put my hands on somebody and look inside their soul and see their absolute fullest potential of who they are, who they've come here to be, their blueprint, where they've come from and where they're heading to. You know, wow, like that's just such a wow moment. No, I can never get over that was given to me as such a gift. Like, incredible.
Well, you carry it beautifully.
Thank you.
I think with power comes great responsibility.
That's true. And I also think, I just want to say, it's not just me that helps people. I think there are tribes that we attract, and for the likes of yourself and with Cody and everything, there's a whole family of, we call them family, whether they're our blood or whether they're our tribe or whether they're our friends, but everybody plays a part in getting a person through. Every single one of us has got the ability to heal without us even knowing. You never know when you are going to save a soul.
Yeah.
Ever.
That's actually very true.
It is.
I think a simple conversation, a simple hug, I think they've been really powerful in many people's journeys at helping them just make the next step, or, you know, not turn out the lights. Yeah.
You just absolutely never know what your story is going to do for somebody else, and that's why I always encourage you to be vulnerable and share. So that's why I love what you do, because you share and you get people to share, and it's going to touch somebody's heart. 10 people might turn off, but one person will go, that was for me today. And that is enough.
Yeah.
That's enough, because that starts the chain of events of happiness. Right?
Yeah.
That's
is
how
that
you
what we
save the
call
world.
it? Yeah, this chain of happiness.
Chain of happiness.
Just starting by one action, one simple creative move, just one thing that we can do to care for ourselves today. That's all it takes.
I've got goosebumps all the way up my neck, down my arms right now, right? That's the pearl necklace. That is the chain. That is the chain of events, the necklace that links all of us, and all of us are healers. We're all healing. We're all healing together. We're healing ourselves and we're healing each other. So keep on hugging everybody. Keep on loving.
I got to say, thank you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Thanks for being here. Thank you for sharing, like, just so beautifully and telling us everything. And honestly, such a unique perspective to come and bring that here today. I knew that the guides told you to talk about these things. And
I did. I pendulumed this morning.
It was perfect.
Beautiful.
It was a perfect conversation, and I'm just so grateful. Thank you, Kay.
You're very welcome, and thank you, Miss Steffi.